What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Jeff, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to draw this star-like pyramid over here figure in Java. And so that's what we're going to be looking at. So without wasting much of your time, let's get right into it. So I have my class declared over here as star pyramid. Let's go ahead and write our main function, our main method. It's public static void main. Alright, we have our string, have our braces and arguments. Alright, open another curly braces up and we are ready to rumble. So for any nested loop, right, before you can even do anything, you have to consider the amount of rows you have before you can even do anything. So that's going to be the outer loop, and that's always the case. The outer loop is always going to control the number of spaces you have. I mean, the number of rows you have. So we have one row over here, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, right? So we're gonna write a for loop that's gonna control that amount of rows for us. So we have four, let's call this rows. 4 rows equals 1 rows is less than or equal to 5 because we have 5 rows. All right, that's our condition, and we're gonna increase rows every time. So rows plus, right? We're gonna open another curly braces, right? And inside of that loop, this is why this is called a nested loop, right? Loops inside of another loop, right? So inside of that loop, now we're done with the rows. I mean, the number of rows. So you can go ahead and look at the actual figure or shape. So before you can see that before you can even print the star shape, there are a certain number of spaces that you have to print, right, before you get to this star, right? And so there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and then there's 4 before you can get to this star on the very first row, right? And it's variable dependent on the row number you're on. So when you're on row number 2, you have 1, 2, 3. So it's decreasing by 1 every time. It was 4 on the first one, it's 3 on the second one, and now it's 1, 2 on the third one, right? And it goes from 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0 finally on the last row. So we're gonna write a set of code that's also gonna control that many spaces, right? And so we're gonna say, let's initialize over here. For spaces equals 1, right? Spaces is less than or equal to. Now this is where it gets interesting, because taking a look at this one, when we run for rows is always going to be static in this example, at least. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. It's not going to change. Our rows is always going to be 5, right? Our row number is always going to be 5. But the spaces, we saw that it changes every time. It went from 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0 over here. So we're going to need an expression that changes depending on the number row that we're on. So if you're row number 2, it prints 3 spaces. If you're on row number 3, it prints 2 spaces, right? So we see that the number of spaces is solely dependent on the number of rows that we have. And so we're going to do what exactly, looking at rows, the number of rows, what exactly minus the number of rows that we have is going to give us 4 spaces on the first line. So we have 5 rows. We know that 1 minus 5 is going to give us 4. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 5 minus rows. And I didn't do 1 because if you do 1, it's only going to work for the first line. But if you do 5 minus rows, when rows right here increases to 2, now you have 5 minus 2 on the second row, which is over here. 5 minus 2 is 3, and so it prints 3 spaces, right? And it's like that for when it increases to 3. 5 minus 3 is 2, so it prints 2 spaces over here, so on and so forth, right? So let's get back to the code, all right? And we're gonna print rows, well, not rows, but spaces plus, right? Awesome. And open another curly braces up. in between that, we want to print our spaces because that's what we've been working at so far. So let's go ahead and print our space over here. This one. And now that we have our spaces, right? So we have our rows, we have our spaces, right? We are looking at printing the star now, right? So we have our rows, number of rows, and now we have our spaces. We are left with printing the stars. So we're gonna write a loop, another for loop that's gonna control the number of stars that we have. And again, for this example, the stars are increasing, so the stars are variable, not static. So we're gonna need another expression, right, that controls the number of stars that we have on each row. So for, let's say for stars, if I can type, for stars equals 1, stars, again, if I can type, stars is less than or equal to, let's take this is where stuff gets a little bit interesting, because we have 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So what expression is going to give you that amount of stars depending on the number of on the row that you're on? So we can see that 2 times, if you do 2 times rows minus 1, that works, and we're gonna figure out why that works in a minute. So 2 times rows, so when rows is equal to 1, 2 times rows is 2, and then minus 1 is gonna give you 1, and that's the amount of stars that we're printing. We're printing only 1 on the first line. So when the row increases to 2 over here, when it increments, right, plus plus, it increments to 2. Now rows, we're on the second row now, so we have stars is less than or equal to 2 times 2, so that's 4, minus 1, and that gives us 3 stars. So we see that this loop, or this expression, in fact works. And we're gonna go ahead and say system.out.print, and we're gonna print our star because that's what we want to print. We're gonna go ahead and print our star, and then we're gonna go here to print a line break, right? Because when you print the first star, you don't want these 3 stars over here to continue over here. You want it to break to a different line to print those 3 set of stars, so on and so forth for the others. So we're gonna use system.out.println. ln means line, so system.out.print line, which forces it to go to a new line. And so that is basically it. The only challenging part is making sure you have the expressions right, and you're printing the right stuff, right? And we're gonna compile our code. Hopefully we get no errors, and we have a bunch. We have a bunch of errors. Oh, good. I see why. Ooh, we didn't initialize it, so we have int. You have to always make sure you have integer over here, and we're gonna compile it again. Oh, good. No errors this time. And we're gonna run it, and boom, yeah, you have your code and your shape over here. So it's pretty simple. Once you get the hang of it, and once you get to knowing what kind of expression you have to print for whatever is necessary that you're doing, it's quite easy when you think about it. So that's it for this video. I really hope I was helpful. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any suggestions, anything you want me to talk about in the next video, leave it down below in the comment section, and make sure you subscribe to this video for future videos like this. Stay tuned. For the meantime, peace.